Welcome and welcome back to my channel, Boomzibi Beauty. If you're new to my channel, my name is Juliana, and as titled, I'll be showing you the one palette I'll be keeping from each brand. I wanted to film this video since last year, and I started to pick out the palettes and I just couldn't do it. I mean, it's one thing if I can only keep 10 palettes, then maybe for some brands I can get to keep like 2-3 palettes, but if I'm only able to keep one from each brand, it was really difficult that in the end I gave up. It wasn't until after watching Batty Bean's video that I decided to find the courage and just look at my collection and pick one palette that I will keep from each brand. It also helps that I have recently filmed my collection and declutter video, so I was able to see what I had, and you know, if I had to choose one of those palettes from each brand, which one would I pick, and you know, the reasons why I would pick them. So that's kind of helped, and I finally decided to film this video. Alright, starting with Natasha Denona. This is the palette I will keep from Natasha, and it is the Sacro Loco palette. This palette is beautiful and yummy. It is colorful. I mean, look at that. If you know me, you know I love colors, and these colors are just so pretty. So it's not your regular rainbow palette with like the normal rainbow palette. This has got pastel shades in them as well, so it's colorful, but the colorful is kind of like spread. It's got some cool tones, it's got warm tones, it's got pastel, it's got proper colorful shades. So that's why I love the palette. It is just so beautiful. I mean, you open the palette and I just can't explain. It's just so beautiful, and it's well coordinated as well, because when you look at the shimmers, it's also got like a coordinating mat, which is what I enjoy in a palette. So it's not like a sprinkle of colors that has no coordination. This palette has coordination. You can use it on its own, and you can use it with other palettes. So looking at all the palettes I have from Natasha Denona, to me, when I look at the other palettes I'm going to be speaking about, for her this is the most unique of Natasha palettes that will fit in with my other collection. Now, I did try to pick palette from brands that I have like quite a few, maybe like from 4 above, but for 2 of the brands which you will see, I had to make an exception because I have less than 4. But if I have to pick like only 10 palettes in total, these palettes will actually be part of those 10. So I thought it was worth it to mention this palette, and one of such is Blend Bunny. Now Blend Bunny only has 3 palettes, and I've got 2 of them. So I've got Surge and Blends, but Surge is my favorite. If I only get to keep one out of both Blend palette and the Surge palette, then this is definitely the one I'm going to keep. And the reason why I'm keeping this palette is because it fulfills the color need in me. And it's not just like rainbow colors. Again, you've got your neon shades, you've got your dark shades and shimmers and the lighter pastel like shades. So it's got everything really. So definitely it has to be one of my collection. I have to just pick one from every brand. So from Blend Bunny Cosmetics is the Surge palette. Our next brand is Juvia's Place, and from Juvia's Place I'm gonna keep the Saharan 2 palette. Now, I love colors, but this palette is just something else. I mean, it's a neutral palette, but it's a neutral palette with like pops of, you know, 1 or 2 colors in here. This is the best neutral palette I've ever used. This is actually my second palette. I've had to declutter the first one because I hit pan in all the rows at the bottom, and the shimmers were just used up and messed up. So this is my second one. I love this palette, and it's so unique and versatile, and will fit in so nicely with any palette I pick from any of this brand. So I definitely had to choose this one. So Saharan 2 palette is the palette I will keep from Juvia's. Okay, next brand is Viziet, and this was very difficult in picking one because at least I have about 5 favorites from Viziet. But if push comes down to shove, then it's going to be the Dark Edit palette. This palette is gorgeous. I mean, it's so little, but it packs a punch. Look at the unique tones, the unique colors in this palette. It's got your neutral to blend out, but it's also got these beautiful shades in the middle, even the ones at the bottom. And these purple tones, I don't love purple, but some purples always stand out to me. This is one of those purples, and it's so beautiful. And the fact that you get a shimmer, you know, for most of the shades as well, is an extra for me. So yeah, Dark Edit palette is the one I'll keep from Viziet. From Nomad Cosmetic is the Orient Express palette. Now this is my overall favorite, as in personal favorite from Nomad Cosmetics. The reason I'll pick this palette starts from the packaging. It's got like a velvet packaging, and it's the only of their palette that is got this kind of packaging, and I love it. I'm here for it. Also, the inside of the palette really compels me. I loved every single shade in this palette, and the tones. This red and blue here in the center, oh gorgeous. This blue and this unusual kind of brownish tones. This palette is just gorgeous, so it fits in nicely with my other palettes I'll be keeping. So the Orient Express palette is what I'll be keeping from Nomad Cosmetics. All right, let's talk about Uoma Beauty. Uoma Beauty, yeah, coming to America, and I think the name is Good Morning Zamunda. I don't know, I stand corrected. If it's different, then I'll put it on the screen. But this is the inside of the palette, and again, it's unique, you know, compared to our normal, is it 10 pan palettes? I think there are 10 shades in them. Compared to those palettes, I prefer this one. Out of the two that was released for the Coming to America one, this one is my favorite. This one really stands out, and the color story is just beautiful. I mean, look at this. So this is the one I will keep from Uoma Beauty. Okay, let's talk about Odin Heights Cosmetics. Now I have acquired a few of their palette now, but when it comes to keeping a palette from them, I think I would rather go with the most unique shade, and for me it is Annette's palette. I mean, this palette is no longer available, but this color story I have not seen in any other palette, at least beautiful like this. I mean, I've seen maybe a mixture of this color, half here, half there, but not completely unique in this sense of color story. It is dark, it is cool grungy. So the grunginess doesn't make the coolness obvious. Now I not so drawn to cool tones, so if it was just plain cool tones, I probably wouldn't have picked up this palette. But because it's like a grungy, dark, edgy kind of cool tones, it's so attractive, and because of all the colors that are here that are not in most palettes, it just makes it so unique, especially for the special shade in a palette. I have not seen any duochrome, at least not that I have, from any brand, either in singles, in palettes, in whatever. This shade is unique. I mean, I have not seen that anywhere. I haven't got this. It is just unique and beautiful. So if I can only keep one palette from Wooden High Cosmetic, then it's going to be this one. I'm not letting this one go. Okay, Sigma is the other brand that I don't have up to 4 palettes from. I have 3 palettes from them, but I'm going to include them in this, and the reason is I love this palette. And again, if I can only keep 10 palettes at all out of all my collection, this would definitely be one of them. It's a beautiful and gorgeous palette. I like neutral tones that are unique to me for whatever reason. I don't like plain neutrals. This neutral, because it's got burgundy tones in it as well, it makes it so palatable to me, and it makes it so exciting to use. And out of all of the one palette I'm keeping from the different brands, this palette is unique amongst all of them. So for me, this would add an extra thing, you know, to my new collection if I can only pick one from each brand. So the Core de Rosa palette is the one I'll keep from Sigma. Okay, Beauty Bay, that was not difficult. That was so easy. Again, I've got quite a few of them Beauty Bay's palette, but in terms of which one to pick, it's gonna be the Wilderness palette. It's a no-brainer. I mean, this palette is the total package. It's got red, it's got green, and it's got these beautiful blues. I mean, there isn't any option. There's no other option. There's no argument. So this was an easy one for me. Wilderness palette is what I'm keeping from Beauty Bay. From OPV Beauty, I had a bit of dilemma whether to pick this one or to pick the new Bloom palette. Then I looked at the Bloom palette. Is the color story I can find in any of the other brands, but this one, the Tropical Dreams palette, is unique in my collection. This palette is the reason why I didn't buy the Ace Beauté palette. And this is the inside of the palette. I mean, it's a bit reflective because of the background of the palette. Let me see if I can bring it closer for you to see the tones in this palette. It's absolutely beautiful. From looking at my screen, it's not coming across, you know, the way the palette is. It is totally beautiful. The name is so befitting. These are tropical colors and so beautiful. Try and not look at the gold backgrounds and just try and see the color story. That's the best way you're gonna see what this palette really looks like. It's an absolutely beautiful and gorgeous palette. So definitely the tropical one is the one I'm gonna keep from OPV Beauty. From Unartly Cosmetics, which used to be known as Alien Cosmetic, I will be keeping the Don't Be Jelly palette, and this is an all shimmer palette, so it's got like your duochromes and then I think maybe 1 or 2 multichromes in it as well. But it is a beautiful palette, I have to admit. Really beautiful palette. I love shimmers. I would always love shimmers, so a palette that gives me all shimmers, it's just gorgeous. I mean, if you have a lot of shimmers, it's not what we haven't seen before, but to have this in a palette as opposed to singles, yeah, make it slightly unique to me. Yeah, so that's why I'll be keeping the Don't Be Jelly palette from Monatly Cosmetics, and just quickly swatching the three I put on my fingers. See how beautiful the shades are. Yeah, so what keeping? From September Rose, the palette I'll be keeping is actually fairly new. This palette is barely a week in my collection, and it is the Still Pretty palette. This is the palette they've just brought out, I think about a week ago. And this is the inside of the palette. This palette is gorgeous. It's the palette on my eyes. It is absolutely beautiful. Every shimmer shade in this palette, outstanding, outstanding. And the mattes, they are so pigmented, so blendable. Oh my days, this palette is yummy, as in seriously yummy. Now I don't have this kind of palette anywhere in my collection. Now the shades of pink, reds, and you know, this dark, I don't even know what to call this pink. It's not really burgundy. It's like dark fuchsia pink, I want to say. I don't have this in my collection. So from September Rose, the Still Pretty palette is what I'm going to keep. Alright, let's talk about E-Unique Beauty. Another one that was very difficult for me to pick one, as all of their palettes are beautiful. So at the end of the day, I had to pick based on color story, as in which color story is going to be unique to my new palette I'm going to be forming from all these ones I keep from the brand. And from that angle, it is the Bubble Time palette that was the most unique to me in all of their color story, and this is the reason why. So it is gorgeous. Honestly, this palette is gorgeous. I don't know what shade you are seeing from this and this, but it's different when I'm looking at it physically. So they are duochrome shades, but they are beautiful. And if a 6-pan palette can give me this gorgeousness, look at the shimmers, absolutely yummy. I'm not going to swatch all the shimmers, but anyone that is unique, I just want to share it with you. I mean, look at this palette. It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, so the Bubble palette is going to be unique to me in my new collection. Alright, from Ace Beauty is going to be the Flare palette. I love the Flare palette. Out of all the palettes they've come out with, including even the recent one, this is my favorite, and it's always been my favorite, even when they come out with new ones. None of their other palettes have pushed this out of my number one. I just love the colors in this palette. You know, the oranges, you know I love oranges, I love red, I love browns, and this green. They just make this palette so unique. And for whatever reason, I've not seen any other brand come up with this color story. So for me, this color story is beautiful, is nice. It's not your everyday common palette. So to me, it's like a treat. If I pick this palette up in a day, it's unique to me. It's unique to use. It's not like your common palette basically. So he's got his own unique story, and every time I use it I just appreciate that fact. So it is the one I'll be keeping from Ace Beauty. BH Cosmetics. Another horrible one. I looked at everything and I was thinking, which one would I keep? You know, when I pick one, I sort of think, okay, that color story has already been picked from another brand. So eventually I had to settle for color story. So I settled for the Sweet Chop Cherry on Top, which is a red toned palette. And this is like an all red. So it's got like your matte red, your shimmery red, dark matte, dark shimmer. It is just gorgeous. So this was the only thing. This was the top one that I could pick out of all my BH Cosmetic palettes, and it is definitely for the color story, because 90% of my BH Cosmetic palettes have got equal kind of formula. So at the end of the day, it is down to color story. Yeah, so this is the one I'll be keeping from BH Cosmetic. All right, from Be Perfect, I will be keeping the Dream Manifest Big palette. I've got a few of them Be Perfect palette as well, but to me this is the most unique color story. Now the other ones, like the Stacey Marie one, the first one was a colorful one, second one was an extremely colorful one with bright neon colors, and the third one is like a grungy neutral color. But this one is unique in the sense that it's got everything, a bit of everything. So if you look at this palette deeply, it's got colorful, it's got neutral, it's got a little bit of some cool tones, it's got a little bit of pastel shades. It's just got everything in it. It's like an hidden gem. You literally have to look to see the beauty of this palette, and I think that's the uniqueness for me, because even though the colors they're not in any particular order, but when you look at it, there's sense in the way this palette was created. It's just so beautiful. I absolutely love it, and I don't have anything like it. Every time I look at it, it's like a mystery, and I'm excited to pick a shade to use. It's not like it's overwhelming that you don't know, okay, which eye look am I going to put together. No, it's mysterious, but you can easily come up with a look. I mean, so easily. Even if you look at the chords kind of go together. I mean, look at it. Just take a look at each chord. You will see that you can use each of the chords together, or even look at it in six shades. See, it's so easy to use, but it's mysterious at the same time. I love this. It's not a boring palette. That's the best way I can describe this. This is a palette that is exciting to use. It's a palette that is exciting to look at. So the Dream Big palette is the one I'm keeping from Be Perfect. From Sample Beauty is going to be the Jeweled Toned palette. Now this palette has similarities to the palette I've just shown you, which is why I most likely like the two, because this is unique as well. It's not common. It's not a colorful, it's not a rainbow palette, it's not a neutral palette. It's just a carefully put together palette with a mixture of everything. I mean, this is bordering on pastel really, and a few of the other shades are slightly pastel in nature. Then you've got some very colorful shades in there. Then you've got your neutrals, but carefully arranged in such a way that it's not too glaring, you know, which side the palette leans on. So I like the mystery of that. And the Jewel Tone palette is the one I'm keeping from Sample Beauty. Okay, ABH. ABH to me is like a forgotten brand, if I'm honest. And it's not until I actually bought this palette during Black Friday that I kind of remember them, who they are. Apart from the Jackie I Know palette, it's only a few of their palettes I even tend to look at, let alone use. So this palette I've been eyeing forever, and I finally got it at a discounted price during Black Friday. Now this palette is on a league of its own in terms of the color story. Out of all the palettes I've been showing you, none of them has the color story like this. This is just beautiful. From the moment this palette came out, it stood out. It stood out amongst all the others, and I knew I was going to get it, but it was just a case of getting it at the right price and at the right time. So I'm definitely happy it's in my collection, and it's the one I'll be keeping from ABH Cosmetics. We are nearly there. From Glam Shop is going to be none other than Paprika palette. I mean, if you've watched a few of my videos, you've heard me singing and going on about this palette. It's just yummy. I love oranges. So for me, this palette, oh, it is, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just fulfilling as far as oranges are concerned. Oh, I love every single shade in this palette, and it's such a shame the kind of packaging they put these shades in, because if it was in a white packaging, you will see the beauty of this palette the more. It is so beautiful. If you love oranges, this is a dream come true. I mean, it's a 9-pan palette, but it's got 5 shimmers, so you can imagine how much I love this palette. And these are the shimmers. I mean, look at this. They are beautiful and unique, and the fact that the shimmers have matching matte as well, it just makes it so beautiful and a joy to use. So these are the shimmer swatch. I just have to swatch this one. If I never swatch anyone, this one is got to be swatched. Look at the color story. It's so beautiful and unique. Yeah, so from Glam Shop, I'm definitely keeping Paprika. In fact, I'm not sure I will ever declutter this palette. Even if it goes bad and they still have it, I'm replacing it. Such a beautiful palette. Glamlite. Let's talk about Glamlite. If you've known me for a while, you know that the Cake palette has always been my favorite, but the palette is getting old now. It's going to 2 years now, and if I have to keep one from a brand, you know, I'd rather not the one that will expire, like, you know, a few months down the line. So the one I picked is the Donut palette, and I love this palette equally. It's equally colorful. I mean, look at this. It's unique. The shades are just beautiful, and the shimmers in this palette, oh my days, they are beautiful. They are a soft, glittery, metallic shades. They are just gorgeous. I'm not going to swatch it, but these are 4 shimmers from this palette. I mean, look at this. From a little palette like this, you know, it just makes me smile. It makes me smile, especially this blue. Absolutely gorgeous. So the Donut palette is what I'm keeping from Glamlite. From P. Louis, it's going to be Watch the Queen Conquer palette. This palette is yummy. The mattes are yummy. The shimmers are yummy. I've said so much about this palette, so I don't want to go on too much. But this is the palette I'm keeping, you know, from P. Louis. It fulfills everything. Colors, pigmentation, shimmers, blendability, everything is in this palette. So yeah, definitely keeping this one from P. Louis. And then the final brand is none other than Playing a Makeup by Yolando. And if it comes to keeping only one palette from Pimby, then it's going to be the Relentless palette. Now this is almost the newest palette from Pimby. So for me, this is the one I'm keeping from Pimbi, and I don't see that changing anytime too soon. These shades are duochrome, and they are just so yummy, so yummy. These mattes, they are a beauty and a joy to apply on your lids. Honestly, basically they just apply themselves on it, especially when you do your look in a diffusing way. They melt on the lid, they apply themselves and they blend themselves. It's just so beautiful, a palette. Again, not gonna swatch. I've swatched this in a few of my videos, but these are the duochrome shades. I mean, look at this. They are beautiful and just gorgeous and yummy. Look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, so the Relentless palette is what I'm keeping from Pimbi Cosmetics. Okay, I know I said that was the last one, but that wasn't the last one. I cannot have this kind of video without keeping one from Mcgrath. So from Mcgrath, I'm going to be keeping the Subversive palette. If you know me, you know this is a palette I will keep. Out of the PMG palettes, this is the most unique to me. And this is the inside of the palette. These 4 shades and this gorgeous purple one, they make this palette for me. It is just yummy. They finish the story and that's it. Now I love, for example, I love the Mothership 5, but in Mothership 5 I can maybe point to 2 shades that are my favorite, but this one I love 5 shades, as in I love 5 shades. Doesn't mean I don't like some of the rest, but think about it, I love 5 shades. So when you add on the likes to it as well, I mean, if I love 5 shades in this palette and I maybe like the rest, to me that surpasses every other palette, because there's none of a palette that I love up to 5 shades. I'm not talking about liking the shades, I mean love the shade, as in really, if I have to do it all over again, if I have to buy that palette again, I would buy that palette. So yes, Subversive palette is the one I'm keeping from Mcgrath. It is a beautiful and unique palette, at least for me anyway. These 4 shades alone, for these 4 shades alone and that purple, I would buy this palette. Even if all the other shades are empty, I will buy this palette and I will keep it, you know. And this is the one I'm keeping from Mcgrath. It's such a gorgeous palette. Okay, so those are all the palettes I'll be keeping from my favorite brands. I would love to know which palettes you'll be keeping. If you had a choice of just keeping one from each brand, let me know in the comment section. Are our choices the same? Are they different? Do you agree with what I think? Just let me know your choices in the comment section. So that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you've enjoyed hanging out with me. If you've enjoyed this video, please like it, share it and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, I'll see you. Bye.